All right, guys. Well, thank you all for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, for those of you who are new to this session, this is the Growth Clinic. We do these every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is all about answering your biggest questions around growth and digital marketing. Each week, we cover a topic for about 30, 40 minutes, then we jump into a Q&A and answer your questions. And yeah, feel free to join us every week, and we'll be keeping you updated on the topics that come. But this week, we're really excited to be talking about the state of Google Ads in 2022. So short story, I actually joined WebMechanix 10 years ago on May 1st now, and I started pretty much doing SEO on Google Ads. And I remember it was a very different platform back in the day. Well, a lot has changed. And just by way of introduction, I'm the Director of Marketing at WebMechanix. We got Chris Mechanic, our CEO and co-founder.
Hello, everybody.
And then we have a very special guest with us today to talk Google Ads. We have Will Gray. He is a resident Google Ads expert here at WebMechanix, works on some of our top accounts. Super sharp. He is driving a lot of really good results, a lot of win stories in our Slack channel right now. So Will, we're super excited to have you to talk Google Ads.
Yeah. Will is what we refer to as a savage. He's just like, give me an account. I'm going to get in there. I'm making those CPAs go down by hook or by crook, baby. That's what we like.
Yeah, thanks for the great introduction, guys. Happy to be here and answer any questions you may have.
100%. So let's dive right in. So let's talk about where we've come with Google Ads and where we are today. So Will, I guess to start, kind of break down what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen on the Google Ads platform in the last 5-10 years or so? And how does that change the way you should approach Google Ads today?
Yeah, so the biggest changes that I've seen since working in Google Ads, which has been the past 5 years, has really been the push towards automation. So the smart bidding strategies being the main thing, and then we have the changes in match types in the last 2 years or so, and then just the increase in ad inventory overall. So when Google Ads first started, it was primarily search, and then they moved into display. Now we have things such as discovery, YouTube, Gmail, and the most recent Performance Max, which kind of is the combination of all that ad inventory put together. So it really changes the approach that we have to take when optimizing accounts, especially when considering the smart bid strategies. It's when do we apply those to specific campaigns or at a higher level to a portfolio bid strategy, and then how do we optimize those smart bid strategies?
Gotcha. So it's kind of moving more from that sort of very micro kind of tactical level to more leveraging the automation tools that Google's now providing us, right?
Yep, exactly. As manual CPC starts to sunset a little bit or using it less, it's not automatically, how do we figure out, what's the best cost per click for these specific keywords? It's how do we use this automation in our benefit, and how do we optimize that automation?
Yeah, and the way that I think of it in a very simplified way, I like to simplify things, but it's like Google Ads used to be like flying a single engine, kind of small plane where you had to do everything manually. You had to be Johnny on the spot. Today, Google Ads is more like a 747. Like it can and will fly by itself if you know how to use all those controls. And by the way, there's probably more controls inside of Google Ads than there are inside of a 747. It's definitely the most complex self-serve ad platform on the market, either that or Facebook. So in a 747, you could fly it manually, but the machines, the robots could do it better than you. So it's become a lot less about, doing many tasks in bulk individually, and more so about understanding the business fundamentally, understanding the value, like the revenue level values of different behaviors, and then understanding the machine enough to put 2 and 2 together so that you can calibrate the machine to get you to your destination.
Yep, it makes a lot of sense. On the flip side, I'm curious, Will, starting with you. So aside from what's changed, what stayed the same on Google Ads in the last 10 years? What are some undying principles that we can still live by when we're running Google Ads campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I think Google Ads providing, quality ads to relevant audiences at the right time is still the most important aspect of your ads account. So account structure is still going to be very important when you're setting up an ads account. Ensuring that, the right people are seeing your right ads for specific keywords. They're going to ads that are relevant to them and landing pages that are relevant to them. So from that standpoint, that hasn't really changed. It's just the tools that we're using to get there are slightly different.
Yeah, that makes sense. Chris, any thoughts on undying principles for Google Ads?
Ads, man. Whoever has the best ads is gonna win. Like, and I'm just such a huge copy nerd. Like, in my mind, it's, you could have the same exact ad or the same exact everything. Like usually if you put me inside of an account, and I'm not as technical, at least not anymore, as Will is. So if you put me inside of an account, the first place I'm going is to the ads. I want to see those click-through rates, north of 5, 6, 7% on search campaigns. So I believe that data and creative are the two eternal, everlasting things in marketing. And if you think all the way in the history of marketing, there's always been a data element, even if manual, and there's always been a creative element. And I think that creative, like I think a lot of what Will is talking about today is probably going to be on the data side, but I think you almost can't emphasize enough the importance of creative, because like there's something that you could say to earn that click. There's something that you could say on that landing page or show on that landing page to earn that lead or that sale. So I think if you do nothing except really come out with exceptional creative, and then your competitor does nothing except just the data side and has like mediocre creative, you'll probably still win.
Yeah, to Chris's point there, I mean, if your creative's off the charts, your click-through rates are going to be a lot better. Your average cost per click is going to be a lot better. And then if you have the landing pages to align with the creative, your conversion rates are going to be great, and your overall CPA is going to be super low.
Yep.
Nice. And I think that leads nicely into the next question I had, which was around the big metric of Google Ads, which is quality score, right? Kind of a black box metric, but we know there are things we can do to improve our quality score, and if we do that, we improve the efficiency of our campaigns. So I'm curious, Will, starting with you, how has quality score changed at all over the years, and what can we do as advertisers to influence that metric?
Yeah, so quality score as a metric hasn't really changed much. It's still ad relevance plus landing page experience plus expected click-through rate, but I think it has become more important now that we're pushing towards automation, since we don't have, in most cases, just that leverage if we want to outrank somebody to, increase our bids or lower our bids on specific keywords. Since we're kind of giving over that control to Google, that is the one metric that we can use to try to lower our cost per click, which should in turn, if conversion rates stay the same, lower our CPA and allow us to get more conversions within the same budget.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Chris, any thoughts on quality score?
I'm a little bit actually superstitious about quality score. Google publishes in their docs, and I do believe that it is set at an account level somewhere behind the scenes, and then also set at the campaign level and the ad group level and the individual keyword level. I think that the click-through rate is probably the heaviest weighted of the different pieces. And I think that's partially because that's how Google makes their money, right? So wouldn't you you would probably weight that the heaviest too if you were the programmer. And so what I like to do sometimes, like if I go into an account and it's just really bad quality scores, if we could switch accounts to a new account, I might suggest that if it's not like too heavy of a lift. If not, I like to liberally purge and just actually remove and delete things that were previously associated with poor quality scores. And I like to set up new campaigns that are specifically designed to get new quality scores. So that would mean, of course, brand. You like your brand campaigns are most always going to have high quality scores. So if you're even if you don't want to spend on brand necessarily forever, you want to at least crank those up for a little while so that you can have that good data coming through. But you can also do things like bully bid. So when you start a new campaign, you bully bid, meaning that you're bidding at the top of the range, so that you're having, you have a higher expected click-through rate in general, even if your ads are the same. But then just really, really test those ads out. Like, I mean, like normally, you might test a new ad like every 100 conversions or every 1,000 conversions or whatever, but just really minimize that window to the maximum number of different tests that you can run. Because if you can improve your click-through rates 10 or 20%, like 5 or 10 times in a short period of time, then you're going to have really good quality scores.
Yep. And to that point, what Chris said is it's way easier to start a new campaign and generate really good quality scores from the beginning than it is to try to improve quality scores over time, because that expected click-through rate is going to be based on a lot of historical data, how that keyword previously performed. So until you start seeing pretty big gains in your click-through rate, it's going to take a while to improve that metric there. So, and I believe it was either WordStream or PPC Hero or something like that did a case study on quality score, and they actually figured out the way that each metric was weighted in quality score. So it was expected click-through rate, landing page experience were weighed the same, but then ad relevance was weighted a little bit less to them. So it does kind of impact the way that we try to improve quality score. The way that I've been doing it and have had success doing it is first one, looking at keywords with low ad relevance and trying to improve ad relevance first, because that's typically the easiest metric that myself is going to be able to improve because there's not as many hands in the pot. And then looking at landing page experience and seeing where we can improve landing page experience. Is it as easy as just, switching landing pages, or do we need to draft up a whole new landing page with your guys' team to make sure that our ads are well aligned with the keywords and the landing page? And then over time, we improve expected click-through rate with ad testing. So that's going to be the slowest one to improve, but it's going to have the biggest impact on quality score in general.
So quick question from Mr. Brian Cleary. We do encourage you guys to drop questions into the chat as they come up. But Brian is asking, is quality score the same as optimization score? I think the answer is no, but you know better, Will.
Yeah, the answer is no. So optimization score is going to be your overall health account score. And Google's looking at like various things there. So they're looking at, if campaigns are limited by budget, is there areas that add like broad match? Is there redundant keywords? So it's an overall account health score. It can be a good place to look for some optimizations in there too. You just have to be careful when going to that recommendations tab and applying certain things, because there will be things in there like raise your budgets to this amount, or like move this campaign to complete broad match keywords. So if you're looking at your optimization score, you can go in and dismiss some of those if you don't think that they're relevant to your business, and it will improve that optimization score for a certain period of time.
Now, on optimization score, is that so the way that I view it, Brian, is kind of like a checklist of best practices almost and opportunities. And so like if you don't have a responsive search ad, for instance, in the account, it'll tell you that. If there's new keywords you might add, it should tell you that. So it's kind of like recommendations from Google in a way. But Will, do you optimize for do you optimize for optimization score? Like, do you think it actually matters in terms of the cost you're paying for a click, for instance?
Google says that it doesn't, but I kind of think that they might be weighting that a little bit. We don't really know at this point. So I do look at the recommendations tab. Like you said, it's a good checklist just for best practices, and it might have some useful stuff in there. And then I just go in and dismiss all that might not be relevant to the specific business.
Oh, you mean you don't just auto apply all of them every time?
I would not recommend doing that.
Dude, Brian, great question. Good to see you, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. hoping I want to join more of these.
Yeah,
certainly
please do.
helpful. I
Yeah.
guess follow up to that super quick. Where can I look at my quality scores? Because I'm in my account right now, I'm looking at optimization scores and ad strength. Where would you go to be analyzing the quality scores?
Yeah, so your quality score is going to be set at the keyword level. So if you go in there and you can add a column for quality score, ad relevance, expected click-through rate, and landing page experience.
Yeah, there's like a little customized columns icon, like at the top right of your keyword report, sort of under the chart.
Yep.
So you customize and then just search that for quality score. And I think you can get like, there's multiple metrics. There's historic quality score. There used to be historic quality score and this quality score and that.
Okay.
While you're in there, add impression share too, because that's a useful one to know.
Awesome.
So I'm curious, so say I'm an advertiser and I just want to do a quick audit of my account, like get a sense of like where my near-term opportunities are. Will, what are some like 3 or 4 quick things that I could look at to start auditing and finding ops to improve?
Yeah, so one, I always look at the quality scores of my non-branded search terms. Typically your branded search terms are going to have really good quality scores because the ads are going to align really well, and then your website is obviously going to align well. So always looking at the non-branded ones, seeing areas where I can improve there. And then the second one that's really important is your search terms report. So just making sure that the search queries that you're showing up for are relevant, especially if you're using broad managed keywords and you haven't had time to build out a really big negative list. You want to go in there, make sure all the queries you're showing up for are relevant and excluding any that aren't, and building out that negative list over time. And then I do look at the recommendations tab, especially when first onboarding accounts, just give an oversight of the kind of like where the client is at and easy improvements that we can make that Google sees. And then one that's kind of been more important over the last 2 years or so is the ad strength. So that's going to be for responsive search ads that that we're using now on most accounts. Google does give you a metric called ad strength, and this is probably going to impact your quality scores too, as far as like expected click-through rate goes. So I always want those to at least be good. They're pretty easy to adjust, and most of the times it's just adding more relevant keywords from that ad group into the ad text.
Nice. Chris, anything you'd add to that?
Of what things to audit.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look to make sure that conversions are set up and firing. And I would look at, conversion rates. So you want certain benchmark rates. Like if you have, in general, if a conversion rate's less than 5%, I consider it to be below average, but it depends on the action, right? So a demo request would be different than like a content download. For content downloads, you really want to see much higher conversion rates. But a lot of times the tracking, especially if there's been multiple people managing it over the years, under the conversions tab, either like there just won't be a lot happening, or sometimes there's like a hodgepodge of different ones and many of them are no longer firing. Some will be imported from Google Analytics, others will be tag based or pixel based. So I always like to look at conversion rates. Yeah, those are the big ones.
Gotcha.
We have this this really cool framework. It's basically a spreadsheet where you could do an entire export of all your account data and drop it into a spreadsheet, and it like pivots and sorts it in a lot of interesting ways. So it'll show things like your average cost per conversion by quality score. So when your quality score is 5, your cost per conversion is 100. When it's 7, it's 80, etc. Sometimes there's accounts, honestly, with low quality scores that are performing really well, and I'm not quite sure why, but like in that instance where your best CPAs might be when the quality score is 3 or 4. You always want to aim to improve quality score, but never at the expense of actually like good CPAs. Oh yeah. So anyway, you just drop all your data into it and it will pivot it and show you a bunch of cool stuff. It'll show you like keywords keywords with more than 100 clicks that have not registered any conversions, for instance, and a bunch of other cool breakdowns. If anybody wants that, I'm happy to share it. And you can just grab, just go to your account, export all the data. It'll give you a big ugly spreadsheet, and you just paste it into one of the tabs, and then it'll just magically pivot it all up for you.
Nice. So let's talk SOPs, standard operating procedures. So if I'm an advertiser, what does my daily, weekly, and monthly schedule of activities looks like? If I want to be really serious about block and tackle, improving my account, what are those things I need to do on sort of daily, weekly, monthly cadence to improve my results?
Yeah, so the number one is just monitoring your KPIs. So seeing where you're, performing, how you've been performing compared to the previous period, previous quarter, whatever it is. And that's going to be, coming up with good quality reports. So having good reporting is very important here. And then developing plans of action around those reports. So, what am I seeing in the account that's happening? What areas can I improve, whether it's conversion rate, CPA, something like that. So developing plans of action and then testing around those plans of action are kind of the main three things I look at on a weekly and monthly basis. So it really just depends. We're doing weekly reporting, but usually we're coming up with plans of action during those reports and kind of going month over month with those. So we have like a set list of like 5 things that we want to test every month just to see how we can improve performance there. And some are going to hit, some are going to miss, but we keep building on those as we go. And then daily block and tackle work is just going to be making adjustments inside the account, whether that be, adding negatives, excluding placements, adjusting device bid adjustments, demographic bid adjustments, and then any other stuff the client wants us to implement, like new ad tests or new product launches and stuff like that.
Makes sense. One quick follow-up question. I'm curious, what are some of the elements of a really solid Google Ads report? Like what should be in that report?
Yeah, for us, it's mostly going to be, specific KPIs around conversions. And, that's going to be conversion rate, average CPA, average cost per click-through rate and stuff like that. And then usually a campaign by campaign breakdown. And then if you want more detailed, you can break it down to the ad group and keyword level as well.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Chris, any other block and tackle activities that come to mind for you?
I'm a huge negative keyword geek. So back in the day when I was running accounts, like I would almost live in that tab because I love the combo of broader based match types or like looser match types with just relentless negatives. So like if I'm in my negative keyword list and I see something like Golden State Warriors or something that's just like clearly not relevant, I'm going to negative out that term in its entirety. I'm going to negative the word golden. I'm going to negative the word state. I'm going to go find all of the list of all the other basketball teams. I'm going to find the women's NBA list of teams. Like I'm going to really extrapolate and bake out that negative keyword list. And to keep them pretty organized, like whether at the account level or at the campaign level or at the ad set or ad group level. Yeah, and then just testing ads, testing landing pages on the like the ad and headline of the landing page combo together can have a pretty massive impact on campaigns. When I go in to do those block and tackle activities, I always will go and sort the campaigns by spend, because like if you have a large account, it's like, well, this could take all day. Where am I going to start? So I'm always going to sort that by spend, and I'm always going to start with the highest spending campaign, and then I'm always going to sort all those ad groups by spend, and I'm always going to start with the highest spending ad group, just 80-20 style.
Yep, I loved front-loading negative keywords when I was running accounts. So even before I launched a campaign, I would go into the Google, used to be Keyword Planner at the time. This was, is this still Keyword Planner? I don't even remember. It's been a minute. But I would basically go in and find like all the terms. Like I would sort by volume. I would find all the terms that did not apply to my campaigns at all, and I would just relentlessly just negative them up front, so that when I launched, I was already in a position where my waste was going to be minimized. The other thing I remember doing a lot was ad group level negatives, right? So That way, like if you have two keywords that could potentially compete with each other, you can prevent that from happening by adding negative keywords to the ad group level. So I remember that being an activity that was pretty fruitful and really helped improve the efficiency of the campaigns I was running. But I'm curious, so we've been talking a lot, mostly about search. Will, I'm curious about Google Display. So how can I use display without throwing my money down the drain? In other words, like what are some things I can do to make sure that when I get clicks from display, I'm getting relevant quality clicks and not just a lot of junk, right? Like how do you recommend tackling Google Display?
Yeah, so the number one thing is kind of asset and audience alignment. So just ensuring that the audiences that you have built out align really well with the assets you're running. Two is going to be the use of good data. So typically, if you're only marketing or only using the conversion data for, let's say, a form fill or something like that, you might get a lot of form fills, but a lot of them might not end up closing into sales. So we've ran into that problem in display before. So now we're kind of, using conversion postback data or, an integrated sync between whatever the CRM is to market to a lower funnel metric like an MQL or SQL. And that kind of helps improve the quality of leads. So you're going to eliminate a lot of junk that way. Another way to go around that is to have a disqualifier question on whatever your form field is, and ensuring that if somebody fills out the disqualifier question, like let's say you're working for like a loan company and somebody that applies for a loan needs to have at least a 700 credit score. Well, if their credit score is lower than that, then the conversion pixel won't fire, and that won't be counted as a conversion. So Google's going to weed out all those people that they assume have a credit score less than that. So you'll have you might have less leads, but you'll have a better quality of lead. Another really successful thing I've seen recently is using first party data to kind of build out audience lists. So you can upload a customer match list, like these are my best customers of Q1 or of last year, and using the similar to audiences to gain new customers. So Google's going to go out and look for users that are similar to that customer list that you uploaded. And then from there, it's just going to be like kind of your everyday to day maintenance, setting bid adjustments and excluding bad placements.
Gotcha. Interesting. Chris, anything to add on display? I know you have a couple ideas I think you've mentioned recently on a couple recent growth clinics.
Yep. So a couple things. One is tacking on to Will's example of the CRM postback. So if it's a lower volume situation where you're not getting that many form fills and you're not getting that many leads, you want to have a pre-conversion signal that's meaningful. So that could be a single question that you're asking to a prospect without requiring the full form field, or it could just be set as a level of engagement, like somebody that's viewed multiple pages on the site, they're clearly a human, things like that. So that can help. I've also had good experience in terms of the bid strategies. And I found that because by default, it will be a CPC based bid, like a cost per click based bid. But I found that bidding on cost per viewable impression can really help cut down on the junk that you'll see in the placements report. We also have a massive list of 50,000 or something domains that are like either just junky or that we've spent on beyond a certain threshold and not generated any conversions. So the same way you can add negative keywords into search campaigns, you could negate placements. I'll generally exclude mobile app traffic if they still let you. I remember they were trying to make
they
that
don't let you anymore. You
difficult.
can, there's some ways around it. Like if you go into the topics section, you can kind of go in and exclude like gaming apps and stuff like that. So you can get a large amount of them. And then it's just from there, you have to kind of exclude the individual ones at the placement level.
So that, I thought that, like, I don't know if they've changed it within the last 6 months, but it's not specifically true. If you use the Google Ads bulk editor, they still have that option that you can check to exclude all mobile apps, Android and iOS, but you can only do it through the bulk ad editor.
I'll have to check in on that.
But I'm trying to update mine right now because I haven't ran ads in about 6 months, but I remember they took away that feature in platform about, I don't know, it's been since like basically I think I was working with you guys a few years ago. And I stumbled upon it like a year and a half ago when I was using bulk editor. I try not to tell too many people because I don't want them to take it away. But
yeah,
we're in a
Google's listening right now.
good thing.
So
we're
sorry,
on-
sorry, Will. I didn't. It's good to see you, first of all. But
Yeah, you too, man.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I apologize if
No, you're good. It's always good to learn
I wanted
something
to
new. So
share that.
I know it hasn't been in platform for a while, but yeah, that's kind of been my workaround, is going into the topic section and just excluding all the app placements from there. But
Yeah.
But one thing that I like to do, sorry, you finish your thought, EJ.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I was going to say, I'm glad you called out the list of domain placement exclusions. I know Stephanie did a lot of work in a case study. I still use that. I dig up that blog post on every new account I work on.
Yeah.
And the only other thing, it's like related to placements, but like within the settings, I think it's under account settings, maybe campaign settings, where you can choose to exclude like below the, I don't know if it's below the fold, but like parked websites and, pending rated stuff, adult websites, stuff like that. That's like kind of everything that has been said before, plus those are kind of the trifecta or the quadfecta.
Yep. The other technique that I like to use with like lower quality traffic, such as display or search, or really anywhere that there's many different potential ways to target the same audience, is I like to basically keep a control, like the ads and the landing page would be the control. And then you build out you basically build an audience by each targeting mechanism. So you can do, interest-based audience, an interest-based audience, a keyword-based audience, maybe a first party, like similar to like a modeled audience, and whatever else, like YouTube has different targeting options and discovery and things. But basically identify the 5 different ways to potentially target that same person and run it as a test, because the performance will be quite different all throughout the funnel. And don't spend your whole monthly budget running the test necessarily. Like, I think you can just set them each to 50 or 100 or 200 bucks a day or whatever, and just let them run for a little while, and you'll learn quite a bit about which audiences work.
Love it. Just got a couple more questions for you guys. So let's talk mistakes. So Will, I guess starting with you, what are some common mistakes you still see advertisers making in Google Ads that we should avoid?
Yeah, some of them, I guess some of the common ones are only using one match type. So I've seen that a lot when onboarding accounts, whether that be just broad or straight phrase or straight exact. So not testing out different match types, not bidding on branded terms when competitors are. So that just gives, your competitors that opportunity to show up above you on the search engine result page when they're looking for their brand. Tracking mistakes, as Chris had mentioned earlier, when doing audits, especially if they've gone from agency to agency, there can be mistakes made in the tracking, whether it's double counting or under counting leads. And then also only kind of goes in hand with the tracking, but only optimizing towards leads. So now in a lot of our accounts, we're optimizing towards like MQLs and SQLs, more down funnel metrics. And that gives us a better chance of eliminating waste within the account and really using those bid strategies to optimize towards ROAS instead of just, generating leads. And then the next biggest one is not having one source of truth. So a lot of times, companies are looking at a lot of different platforms for a source of truth, whether that be their CRM or Google Ads, or even more than that. So not having one source of truth to kind of measure performance can kind of cause a hairy mess when looking at everything.
Gotcha. Chris, any mistakes come to mind?
I would say being obsessed with cost per lead, or being obsessed with a single metric and not really looking at the whole picture, because a lot of times the campaigns with higher cost per leads will, or higher cost per transaction, will bring like higher quality prospects in. We've seen that happen quite a bit. And then also, I think freaking out, like looking at the account daily or hourly and freaking out and making changes for things that could just be like very normal variations in the data. Like we have one client who's a large client and we love him to death, but we spend half the day sometimes like they're like, oh, the call volume is down today. And it's like, okay, well, because if you are making a lot of changes, I mean, it's all machine learning based, it's all AI based. So when you make a change, it needs to recalibrate.
Yep, I think about it like the stock market. Like if you're watching it hour to hour, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, even day to day. And if you make decisions based on that, you're going to freak out, you're going to make bad decisions. But if you take a step back, breathe, and look at kind of the macro trends, then you can take in more data and make a more informed, intelligent decision versus freaking out and blowing your whole account.
Yeah, it can also be really useful because like conversions aren't going to always happen in real time or appear in real time. So it's useful to have an understanding of, like, on average, to what degree does the attribution settle in over your 7 or 14 or 30-day window that you're looking at. So we usually like to get that pretty close, so we know that, hey, if we're at a X return on ad spend on Friday before the end of the month, that hey, by next Friday after the end of the next week, it's going to be at 70% of X or 80% of X.
Makes sense. Last question. Let's talk tools. So what are the top 3 to 5 tools you guys recommend for managing your Google Ads account? I guess, Will, starting with you.
Yeah, so I guess the top 5 that I use, one is Optimizer, which is a tool that we have here at WebMechanix. It's super helpful when just going in, auditing accounts, and also doing optimizations. And they also have a really cool rule engine, which is basically a thing where you can build out rules, and it basically creates a script that you can use in Google Ads. So I really like that feature of it. So you can do ones for, adding high conversion rate or high conversion search terms, automatically add those as exact match keywords into that specific ad group, things like that. Another one that I use pretty often is SpyFu. So it's kind of a competitor research tool. So it just gives me an idea of, how much our competitors are spending, what assets they're using, what landing pages they're pointing to, and those such of things, just so I can keep an eye on if things are changing in the market, if there's more competition. That's why we're seeing CPCs go up. And then, if we could be doing better by spending, more in other areas versus our competitors that maybe aren't spending as much in other areas. The third, auction insights report, so kind of the same thing there. Looking at that pretty often just to see, who's bidding against us on certain keywords in certain campaigns. And I use Google Optimize and heat mapping a lot just to come up with like UX ideas and test those out.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll toss a plug for Hotjar out there. And specifically what I like to do, especially earlier on in the campaigns, is have an exit intent modal that fires for the purpose of feedback, and like like either triggering a survey or a poll or some kind of user voice to better understand, like, well, why didn't you convert? You clicked on that. There is a script that we wrote, which for brand, like if you are working at a larger organization that gets a lot of search volume and you are spending significantly on brand search, the script will essentially suppress your ads in scenarios where the search result is what we call uncontested, which means that your company ranks #1 organically and there's no other advertisers bidding on it. So like in a case where you have like a lot of conquesting attempts from competitors, well, guess what? Sometimes they're not running ads at 2 o'clock in the morning. right? So if you still are running ads, then you're paying for that ad and you've got the organic slot. So we call that brand AI, but it's basically just a script. And there was a few others. Google themselves has introduced some cool tools like the CRM import tools, like the data postback tools that they have, as well as I forget the exact name of it, but there's enhanced conversions or restated conversions where you can go back after the fact based on the down funnel performance of a certain lead and restate the conversion value accordingly. So yeah, those are the big ones that come to mind. I do see a question in the chat, which is a good one.
Lowell kicking off the Q&A. So Lowell asks, do you tend to put broad in the same ad groups as phrase and exact keywords or separate by match type? And the second part of his question is, do you tend to embrace or avoid running search partners for broad keywords?
Yeah, so I've been putting them in their own campaign. So usually I'm testing them out with an experiment first, which will kind of give you more control to run the budget 50-50. So yeah, I've been building them out in their own campaign and having success doing that. And usually, you know, if you have a good negative keyword list built out and you're using some type of smart bid strategy, the broad match keywords have been performing pretty well. I've seen it outperform, you know, phrase and exact match a couple times. So I've always been testing it out. I've also been running that with search partners, and then just monitoring search partners for search as we go, and either excluding it or keeping it in, or just adding a negative bid adjustment as we go.
Cool, thanks.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome. What other questions you guys have about Google Ads, or anything you're wrestling with in your campaigns or curious about?
I have a question about branded keywords versus non-branded. Just been having challenges with, we have like a meal prep company, so it's e-commerce client, and branded keywords eat up so much of their spend. And it's good, we get a ton of conversions from it. They also have great organic search results. So sometimes we wonder like how many of those conversions would have come anyways if they weren't, you know, running from the branded keyword. But I've been having a hell of a time trying to start winning for non-branded keywords, which oftentimes we're going against, you know, HelloFresh and Blue Apron and large national competitors as well. But we do seem to have like a good like top of page percentage, and our optimization score, quality scores are relatively high. But yeah, I guess maybe like what are some, I don't know, first steps you might do or things you might look for to optimize towards non-branded keywords? Yeah, I guess that's the question.
Great question. Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I would look for the winners in the non-branded accounts. So whatever's performing quite well, you know, look at your device placements or device bid adjustments, your demographic bid adjustments, see if there's anything you can do there. You can look at specific locations that might be outperforming other specific locations. And then after looking at the winners, you know, going in and, you know, pausing ones that might not have been performing well over the last 30, 90 days, and then looking for other areas to test out. So whether that be like new keywords, maybe new products that you aren't currently bidding on, stuff like that. And then from there, kind of looking at the current bid strategy you're using. Is there another one that might fit your goals better? Do you have the data to back that up? And do you have the budget to back that up?
My first thought goes to the landing page. So I would say, like, grab an instance of Hotjar, get some user session recordings, get a little bit of user voice going, and see if you can't get that landing page converting higher.
Okay, that's a good point. That was kind of I think one of the things I think is one of the main issues. This client actually just switched from a WooCommerce site to a Magento site, and they used like an outsourced dev team that I don't think did a very good job. They're moving over to a different dev team that I think might do a better job. I mean, you guys might not have this issue because you usually probably have control of the sites, or maybe have designed the sites that your clients are using. Do you have anything you do to combat that? If, like in our instance, we don't manage the website completely. We could maybe do some things with like landing page development, but in terms of a solution there, if you know that the landing page is not as strong, yet you don't have complete design and dev control of the site itself.
Yeah, so in some cases we do have complete control, in other cases we don't. So I mean, it's always just going to be making recommendations, and then if they're not, willing to change, then asking just if you can test against their current landing page. And usually it's just testing against your current landing page and see how the test results come out. If you end up winning that test, then they'll be more likely to listen to your UX or landing page designs in the future.
Yeah, I think that to Will's point, making recommendations is good, but it's one thing to be like, hey client, your landing page sucks, like can you get your development team to fix it? Versus like, hey client, we ran the numbers, like here's the friction in your landing page, here's a wireframe of how we'd like to look, here's the copy, like go have your developers do that.
Yeah.
So that's a lot more likely to get done than just like a vague request. And the other thing would be like a jump page. So if you can get them to create a subdomain for you, then you can control that subdomain. And sometimes you can add like a quick screen with maybe a single question or two that will appear before the actual landing page to qualify and segment.
Okay. Those are good ideas.
If I could ask, when you're bidding on these non-brand keywords, like how long tail are these words? Are they very broad non-brand? Like what is the gist of the non-brand keywords you're going after?
We have a mix, but they're like generally shorter phrase. Like some of the ones that have we have a 7 out of 10 quality score on meal delivery and meal prep. I mean, those are obviously like, and we just have those on broad match. So that's like very broad right now. Those are at least getting like impressions and clicks. Haven't really converted, but and then we have some other ones where it's like healthy meals on a budget, weekly meal delivery, prepared food delivery. So anywhere from like 3 to 5 words, meals to cook at home. And we have a mix. Most of them are broad match now. I think I started with phrase match and the campaign wasn't really performing much at all. So I went to broad match. So yeah, there could just be more keyword research to be done there maybe for different phrases.
Yeah, my approach when I ran accounts would be to start with phrase match or exact match. I don't remember, I'm not candidly up to date with exactly what's been phased out right now, but I typically, you would really have to pay me to use broad match. I have never really seen, unless you're running like a very broad like awareness level campaign where the objective isn't an ROI. I generally don't run anything broad match, but starting with kind of longer tail phrase match or exact match that aligns closely with the brand's kind of strong points. So I don't know who this client is, but like say they do keto meal prep, I would double down and really focus on like keto meal delivery services, like as a phrase match, like going as deep as I can and branching out only once like I've reached kind of the bottom, like rock bottom. Like you said, you started, phrase match and didn't have a lot of success there. Rather than jumping straight to broad match, what I would do is try to prune back some of those keywords and still keep them phrase match or exact match, but start to figure out where that threshold is where I'm starting to see traffic, because you're going to get, I would imagine you'd get eaten alive when it comes to like just meal delivery, because then you're competing not only against other meal prep boxes or, services, but you're also competing against, Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats. I don't know what the landscape looks like, but in terms of just semantically, like that's, when people type meal delivery, like that's what a portion of those people are going to be looking for as well. So kind of those latter keywords where you're talking about the specific benefits or the specifics of the offer that you have. In addition, the landing page recommendation is fantastic as well. If you can get those two to align, sending in the keto meal plan example, keto meal plan delivery service, sending that to a page for a keto meal box would be kind of the ideal situation. But really aligning those long
That's
tail.
a really good framework, EJ. And I'd never really thought of it
Yeah,
like
that's a
that.
good
But
point.
if you
I
say,
learned it from
hey,
you, man.
if you say, well, you said it well. Say, hey, in our business, what is our competitive advantage?
Yep.
Like we're not better than Blue Apron, but for people who blank, we're the best. For people who like keto, we're the best. And then look at how you can find those folks. Like it's either going to be keyword, like is there keyword search volume? Great, buy it. But there's other ways to target keto lovers too. Like on YouTube, I'm sure you could target keto lovers, for instance.
Right.
It is a purchase, I think, with like somewhat of a consideration period. You know, like the probably people are not just like finding one and buying it in one session. You know, they'll probably find
Yeah.
3, look at them, you know, start a trial with one, and then like a week later, you know, think about it. So I don't love, like, I'm a performance person for the most part, so I don't usually like lead with, hey, like let's build audiences and awareness. But given how cheap YouTube is and how powerful it is in terms of the targeting and the scale, you might want to just think a little bit longer term. You know, like don't think like, hey, this click has to convert today, but get
Yeah.
your retargeting game real tight and get like some nice dialed in prospecting campaigns where you're not really trying to convert. You're more so trying to qualify, segment, and build retargeting audiences.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we've had a lot of success on Facebook ads with them, and we've been doing some like more awareness on TikTok as well, which has been getting like great click through and some audience growth. So yeah, maybe taking more of a, let's say, full funnel approach here, filling some of those top funnel impressions or click throughs before they actually purchase. That's probably a good point. And we haven't done really much on YouTube. I think we have 1 or 2 assets that fit YouTube in a Performance Max campaign we've been testing, but we're not running anything specific YouTube. So that's probably a good point as well. This also, they're regional. They are about to open up to national delivery, so they have a larger geo area to target, but they're local to Buffalo, New York, where I am, and opened up locations in Rochester, New York, which is about an hour away from us. So they've been working with a tight geo area as well. But that can be an advantage too, I guess, in some cases. So yeah, great points. Thank you guys.
Yep.
Yep.
I got to jump you guys. It's been a pleasure. Will, if I, for whatever reason, my ads editor keeps crashing and I can't log in. So if you haven't taken a look, or if you want to connect with me offline, I'd be happy to tell you at least where I would find it. It's a little deep in the platform, but I would love to reconnect and share that.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm going to take a look today, and I'll hit you up if I have any trouble there.
Cool. Sounds great. Anyway, it was great to see you. Great to see the rest of you WebMechanix guys. And
Oh yeah, come back
Yep.
next week.
folks.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. You guys let us know what topics are top of mind. We could probably do a whole nother session just on Google Ads, but what are we
Yep.
looking at next week session wise?
Yeah, so next week we're talking about, on the topic of advertising, how to leverage AI in your advertising strategy, how to do it with a relatively low lift starting pretty much tomorrow. So
Nice.
yeah, nice little build on top of the conversation we've had today.
Yeah, we'd love to see you guys join. If not, if you can't make it, we can make the recordings available. Just let us know, and we will see you soon.